Politics, the vast and tangled universe of policy and partisanship, the powerful and the power seekers, the interest groups and the influencers. How do we begin to make sense of it all? Unlocking the mysteries of the political cosmos begins by understanding the fundamental principles that drive the issues of the day. Join us as we explore the physics of civics. Hello again, folks, and welcome to the Physics of Civics. I'm Phil Adams here with my co-host Jay Britton, and we're going to dive into a not too well-known but very fundamentally important principle that falls under the heading of federalism. Now, for those of you who are not quite familiar with the concept of federalism, basically, we not only have three branches of government set up by the Constitution: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. But the Constitution also recognizes levels of government: the federal government, as well as state and local government, and basically the people. And the whole idea of federalism is that states and localities and individual people are sovereign and autonomous, and power accrues from the bottom to the top. And as the Declaration of Independence says, legitimate government is through the consent of the governed. And so our system of federalism recognizes federal power, but it also recognizes the states and their sovereignty, and the individuals and their sovereignty. And one of the important aspects of that whole federalism scheme is that there is a clause within the Constitution that grants certain powers exclusively to the federal government. It's called the Supremacy Clause. And in certain areas, the federal government is supreme. What they say goes. And there are reasons why certain things have to be this way. And Jay's going to talk to us all about the Supremacy Clause. So Jay, give us an idea of what the Supremacy Clause is and why it was established.
The Supremacy Clause, as you mentioned, might be one of the most important parts of the Constitution. Supremacy Clause was created in 1787. It was ratified the next year. What it says, in a nutshell, the federal government is the mothership, okay?
Right.
The supreme law of the land. And so it says that whatever a state does, it can't go against federal law. And this comes about through anything the federal government does, whether it's laws, treaties, agreements with foreign countries, whatever that would be. The primary reasons, I think you alluded to a couple of them, that the founding fathers decided they need this clause was the Articles of Confederation really didn't address this the way it needed to.
No.
When the country was first established, the United States, the state governments had a lot of power, probably more power than the federal government had. And this created all kinds of problems. You would run into situations where states would say, yeah, we're going to nullify that. We don't want to do that, whatever the government had passed, especially came around with tariffs, things to do with trade with foreign countries. Interstate commerce. It also had to do with things like the federal government would establish that states had to pay a certain amount of money towards the federal militia, the army or whatever it was at the time. And some states would just say, I don't think so. We're not going to do that. We don't have the money to do that right now. So there was a lot of chaos, really, between the federal and the state governments. So the initial reasons for this Supremacy Clause was to ensure a national unity, so that the whole country agreed when it came to certain subjects, certain laws, treaties, so forth. And it was to obviously maintain federal authority, that they were in charge. The federal government was the ultimate arbiter of law.
Otherwise, you don't have a nation.
Yeah, right.
You just have a collection of sovereign states.
And that's really what we had. honestly.
Under the Articles of Confederation, yeah.
Yes, that's essentially what we had. It was, and it was, they didn't think it through at the time completely, and they realized, we need to have this. We need to have a declaration, as you said, of who is in charge from the top down, the federal government, state, local jurisdictions, so forth. They also wanted to balance the powers between states and federal. They had to balance it out. And finally, it was to reassure foreign governments, that we were a nation, not just a collection of states. Because the problem was making deals with the United States for other governments for, we were selling tobacco, we were selling a lot of things overseas. There was no consistency. Right. Those are the primary reasons why the Supremacy Clause came around.
I love there's a famous quote by historian Shelby Foote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To make documentaries. He was great.
Yeah, he was on the Ken Burns Civil War.
Oh, that was a good
series,
show. That was fantastic.
He said even up until the Civil War, the United States was still seen as kind of a collection of states. And when they said an action, they would say the United States are doing this.
Yeah.
And then after the Civil War, they would say, no, the United States is doing this. And he said the Civil War changed us from an R to an is.
Right, exactly. And, the Civil War was one of the sort of initiations of the Supremacy Clause. It came about big time. Mm-hmm. If we look at the history of how this nullification has come about, the earliest was, as I mentioned, had to do with tariffs. And it was the state of South Carolina. They passed a state law that declared the federal tariffs to be null and void because they were selling tobacco overseas and they didn't want to pay the tariffs.
Right. In
that case, it never made it to the Supreme Court. It didn't have to because Andrew Jackson, the president at the time, he rejected the nullification. He said it was unconstitutional, which it was.
Right.
Eventually, what happened is Congress passed a compromise tariff that South Carolina and the federal government would agree to. So it avoided going to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Things were bubbling, obviously, before the Civil War happened. And this is one of the big causes, I think, of the Civil War. Most historians would agree.
Okay.
And that was the Fugitive Slave Act. And that was in the 1840s to the 1850s before the war. You had these free states. You had what was it, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Vermont, and a couple others.
And some of the newer states, Missouri and some of those.
They passed what they called personal liability laws that essentially said, we accept slaves. And the federal law said, if you capture a slave who's escaped, you have to return him to the owner. And these free states said, well, that's bullshit. We're not doing, these are people. We're not doing that.
Right. We're not doing it.
The U.S. Supreme Court reversed the Wisconsin law and said, no, this is federal law. They were following the federal law and they said, no, you have to abide by this. You have to return slaves to runaway slaves.
Runaway slaves, yeah.
So that was really one of the things that was bubbling into the Civil War. I think you can find current events, obviously, that run up against this clause. And those would be two that come to mind. First is immigration law. Obviously, it's in the news every freaking day, right?
All the time. The
federal government passed a law, has a law that says, you can't come into our country illegally. You can't just walk in and be a citizen, live here, And what's happened is you've got these sanctuary states who passed laws, California, New York, Illinois, the states. You wonder, how do they get around this? Because it's obviously federal law. Well, the way they get around it is they pass laws in their state that says we are not going to use our resources to arrest these people and deport them. It's not our job.
Right. And we're not going to cooperate with federal law enforcement.
And they've left it like that for 20 years now or whatever it's been. And what's happened now with the current administration, Tom Homan and his gang said, fine, if you're not going to do it, we will.
But they're invoking the Supremacy Clause.
The federal government.
To be able to go ahead with their own deportations.
I don't know how you can argue that. And certainly the Supreme Court would fall on the side. They've resisted doing anything with regard to illegal immigration
So if push comes to shove, what do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to enforce the Supremacy Clause? I would guess
they have to. I mean, if they're judges. That's their job.
I mean, the Constitution compels them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty clear. That's federal law. Now, there have been many examples where states skirt this Supremacy Clause by the example we just gave.
We're not going to spend our money and use our resources to comply.
We are an autonomous state. We have the right to decide where our funds go, where our resources go, and we're not going to spend the money on that. The other obvious case, which we've discussed before, is marijuana legalization. People ask me all the time. We have
discussed that a little bit, haven't we?
For good reason. And that's you hear people ask us all the time when we had our show about legalizing cannabis. They ask us, how does this work? How can it be legal in Colorado and California and Oregon and all these states now, half the states in the union,
and still be illegal federally?
Well, it's the same premise as illegal immigration, where the Controlled Substance Act of 1970 is a federal law that clearly states that it's illegal to purchase, own, distribute Schedule I drugs. Cannabis has been classified as Schedule I.
Designated, yeah.
The states here set up a system to regulate the sale of these products. The key here is that the federal government, under Obama, issued that memorandum that just said, my federal government, mine being when he was President Obama,
while he was president,
we're not going to enforce it from a federal standpoint. We're not going to spend our federal resources on arresting people. So,
that was the famous Cole memorandum, and in that instance, the Obama administration is doing the opposite of what the current administration is doing. They're saying, you've got your states set up, and we're not going to mess with that. Whereas the current administration says, we don't care what your state set up are. We're going to enforce this.
Right. And so cannabis is kind of in the lurch right now. We don't know where that's going to go. A lot of folks in the industries in California and other legal states are very concerned about it. Technically, it's federally illegal. And if the Trump administration wanted to do with cannabis what they did with Tom Homan and, illegal immigration, they could. And they could go into California and start arresting, closing down shops, but it would be it would be on their dime.
And I don't think that's a can of worms
anybody wants to mess with.
The current administration, anybody wants to open at this point.
I get the impression, Trump had made comments about cannabis, and he seems to be kind of, he just doesn't think it's that important.
Well, he's very pragmatic about it. I think it's, he's looking at it from a practical standpoint, Why do we want to piss off?
Yeah, we got so much other shit going on in the government right now. I just don't think it's a priority.
It just doesn't rise to the level, Folks, give us your ideas and your thoughts about this. This is one of several kind of sticky issues that we find that fall under the basic heading of federalism. Others have to do with the Commerce Clause and things like that. Which we will be discussing, but I think understanding this idea of the Supremacy Clause is pretty fundamental to the whole shebang. Give us your thoughts. And by the way, don't forget to like, follow, share, and hit that subscribe button. We want to know what your thoughts are. And I don't want to get too far down the road, Jay, before I remind folks that this episode of The Physics of Civics is brought to you by our friends at Savage Soaps. They are makers of very luxurious, all-natural, handcrafted soaps made right here in America from sustainably sourced plant-based ingredients. You're just going to love them. So shop savagesoaps.com for soaps, salt, scrubs, body butter, and other skin-loving products for men and women. Get wet with Savage Soaps. Now we come to our top three, the PoC TOP-3, as we like to call it. And we've got an interesting subject today, Jay. Well, it's interesting to me.
If not somewhat controversial, but go ahead.
It may be a little controversial, but we're going to try to be as respectful about this as we possibly can. But I think we're in a place where we can discuss these things again. Today's top 3 is the top 3 beautiful women in politics.
Ooh.
Gone are the days when, female politicians were these stuffy old dowagers. There's some quite stunning women who are gracing the halls of power here and abroad.
We're going to get some email. I would just like to say up front.
You know what? Give us the emails. We want the emails.
Yeah, we want the email. The ladies out there, put a comment down below. Let us know the most handsome male politicians. And maybe you and I'll make the list. No, we're not politicians.
I don't have a particular opinion on that, but so who should go first? Should I go first?
Yes, you do it.
All right. Number 3 on my list is the current director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
I love
Beautiful
Tulsi
woman.
Gabbard.
Beautiful
She
woman.
is elegant and she is extremely intelligent and tough as nails, ex-military.
Right.
And from Hawaii. She was, not too long ago, a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination. And now she is a member of a Republican administration. But Tulsi Gabbard, she's got that shock of white hair in that big...
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of, striking.
Yeah.
Number 2, I would say, is the Secretary of Homeland Security. Is she Homeland Security? Yes.
Yeah.
Kristi Noem.
Yeah, pretty lady.
Pretty lady. She's got she doesn't have that tired old political woman, straight bob with the bangs.
Right,
like they all seem to have,
Or the poof with all the hairspray.
She's got long locks of really pretty hair, really pretty green eyes.
Easy, big fella.
And those high cheekbones. I think she's a striking woman. And number 1 is the Congresswoman from the state of Florida, Anna Paulina Luna. And I think, I don't know of anyone who doesn't think that she is a beautiful woman. So those are my top 3.
All right. Well done. I like them all. I agree. You want to hear my top 3?
I absolutely want to.
You're not going to like my number 3. AOC.
I like AOC.
I mean, she looks like a hot bartender.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
She was a hot bartender.
Yeah.
She, of course, she is the Congresswoman from New York.
Yeah.
I think she's from the Bronx. Is that right?
Well, but
her
she's
district
actually
is mostly the Bronx.
Yes, but I think she was raised in the suburbs, middle upper class. She doesn't tell you that part, but she's a pretty lady. I mean, she's
and becoming one of the faces of the Democratic Party, without a doubt.
Absolutely, big time.
Big time.
Now, my number 2, you may not remember, but her name is Alejandra Campoverde. Do you remember her? I probably pronounced it wrong.
I don't remember her. Where is she from? She
worked for the Obama administration.
Okay.
She was a special assistant to White House Deputy Chief of Staff.
All right.
Campoverdi. Look her up, guys. After she left the Obama administration, she went to work for Univision and the LA Times. So she's been around on TV some too.
Okay.
Super leftist, but very attractive lady. And my number one is a woman who you more than likely don't know. Her name is Eva Kaili. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name.
Eva Kaili.
Kaili. And she was one of the vice presidents of the European Parliament. And she has a Greek background.
So she's a big-time politician.
And a model. I mean, stunning, beautiful, blonde woman. With that said, she had a little controversy.
I
don't know if you remember this or not.
I seem to recall something rather corrupt.
She went down big time. Yeah, back in 2022, she was arrested by the Belgian federal police following an investigation into organized crime, corruption, money laundering.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, she was immune from prosecution because of her position.
Right.
She had like immunity being vice president of the European Parliament. But they went and looked in her house, and she had in her father's house, and there were suitcases full of cash.
Damn.
So she's a bad girl too, apparently. So anyway, that's my top 3. And
all right.
And ladies, comment below. Tell us who the handsome guys are, right?
If you like. All right, Jay. How about some news that you can't use?
Well, I found a couple pretty funny stories, Phil. This one got me. I'm looking at a story out of the Daily Beast and by Josh Fialano and dated in July. So the story's been out for a little bit. But there's this crazy right-wing whack job guy who he and his wife and his kids, they had a bunch of kids, and he was so frustrated and annoyed by what he called the LGBTQ plus indoctrination of his kids in the school system that he decided he was going to move to Russia.
Whoa.
I guess he had some Russian background maybe or something, but he said, this country is falling apart. It's going to hell. All these crazy left-wing nut jobs. And so this guy decided he was going to go to Russia,
really?
Right?
So if America is the problem, is Russia really your answer?
That was what I thought, but whatever. So this guy, his name's Derek Huffman. He's 46 years old.
He is a whack job.
And he says he's being, quote, thrown to the wolves, unquote. What happened is he went to Russia and he talked with the authorities, and he decided he was so enamored by this country and the state of politics in Russia,
right?
That because, he's a conservative. So I'm not really sure how that all works out. But so he decided he was going to join the military.
Okay.
And he made an agreement as he understood it. And again, this guy doesn't speak Russian. So
you go far enough to the right and you're not conservative anymore. You know what I mean? You're just kind of a nut.
Yeah. So this dude definitely falls under that definition of nut.
Yeah.
So anyway, he decides I'm going to join the military. I'm going to do my part so I can become a citizen. And the agreement he understood was he has a welding background.
Okay.
Go figure. So he's from Texas. He's going to be a welder in the army. Guess what the Russians did to him, Phil?
Oh, God.
They sent him to the front lines of Ukraine. Put a rifle in his hand.
What a dope.
Yeah. So he's like, oh,
what a maroon.
Shit. So anyway, I thought this guy's a friggin' moron, man.
Well, you gotta, that's kind of poetic justice right there.
It is. I guess it is, right?
What he gets. You do something like that. Oh my
Front lines of Ukraine, baby.
Oh,
boy,
God.
He's praying for
Texas is looking kind of good. The school system's looking pretty good right about now.
Pretty good now. He's definitely hoping for some ceasefire action, isn't he?
Well, folks, we really loved bringing you all this news and views and other perfectly useless stuff. I know it's not perfect. We want you to understand some of these fundamental principles that help us understand what's going on in the news. And if you have any ideas of your own that you'd like to share with us, please put a comment below. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and hit that subscribe button. We got some more great stuff coming up in future episodes, so we're going to see you next time right here on the Physics of Civics.